Donald Trump thinks he can lie his way out of the brutal assault that he has launched on the city of Los Angeles and the peaceful protesters pushing back against him. But that is just not the case, because Gavin Newsom refuses to let Donald Trump get off the hook, calling out all of his lies and false narratives. And he did so today when Donald Trump lied or forgot, because he's senile, that Gavin Newsom and him haven't talked since June 7th. Now, that lie was publicized, and of course, Donald Trump is trying to deny it, but he was asked about it on the tarmac today and lost his mind when he was. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does support the work that we're doing on this channel. Now, before we can get into that question, we got to start where Trump did, lying about the protesters in LA.
So we have this guy allowing this to happen. Let me tell you, when you watch these agitators break up concrete and hand it out to people as they stood online to get it, these have to be paid troublemakers.
Mr. President, you appear to say that the governor and the mayor paid them. Do you believe that the governor and the mayor paid the agitators?
No, I don't say the governor and the mayor. I said somebody's paying them, I think. And if they're not, they're just troublemakers. What can I tell you? But I believe somebody's paying them. I mean, I've never seen somebody with a big hammer so professional. Now, they took the bricks away from them. So they say, how do we get in? The military did. How do we get in, and what do we do? They said, I have an idea. Let's break up the concrete, and that's even better than bricks, and that's what happened.
Yeah, I cannot believe, or I guess I really should believe, that MAGA continues to come back to this lie, always saying that it's paid protesters. First of all, why would anyone need to be paid to go and defend their community from a brutal and illegal invasion by Donald Trump's masked thugs? That just seems like anyone who cares about our country would be willing to do that. Second, Donald Trump had Elon Musk handing out million-dollar checks to people in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Literal million-dollar checks. And we're the ones paying protesters? It's George Soros paying 100,000 people in California? What is going, like, what is this idea? It just runs so counter to what the actual truth is. But of course, that is Donald Trump. And of course, that's part of his plan, to just create distractions. There's no actual idea he wants to execute on. He's not trying to keep the peace. And that was made clear when he was asked about the military right here.
What rules of engagement do you want for the military? What limitations?
A very simple rule of engagement. If they're dangerous, if they're throwing concrete or bricks, if they're spitting in the face of the police or whoever's in front of them, if they're punching people, if they're doing all of the things that you see done for the last 3 nights, that I would say is engagement. We need to keep our city straight. I want to save Los Angeles. And Newsom is totally incompetent. He's not going to do it. Look at the fires he had. He had fires where half the city, it seemed, burned down. What was it, 25,000 houses, all because he wouldn't take water. I released the water from the Pacific Northwest, and it came down millions of gallons a day. And it's right there right now. They'd like to send it back. There's something wrong with these people. All I want in terms of engagement, I just want to see peace. If there's peace, we get out. If there's even a chance of no peace, we stay there until there's peace. And a lot of people are being arrested. The rioters, or whatever you want to call them, they better know a lot of people are being arrested. They're going to be in jail for a long time. Thank you very much.
I think that clip right there is one of the most important you could use in describing what is happening in Los Angeles right now. Donald Trump doesn't know what he wants the military to do. He just wants the military to be there, to pretend like they need to be. Marines don't need to be there. It was peaceful until Donald Trump started attacking peaceful protesters. That is the only time that we have seen unrest come about. He just wants a spectacle, and he just wants the loyalty of the military, which unfortunately we saw in a really disturbing way at a speech earlier today Donald Trump gave, where we saw service members applauding the most insane remarks, and Donald Trump talked about that for some reason, bragging in this clip right here.
And I've never seen anything quite like that. I don't think any other president has either. You know, they really put on a good show. I asked them, did you do that for Biden? They said no, they didn't do it for Biden. I wonder why.
Now, I doubt generals were confrontational towards Joe Biden during his presidency when they were at military bases. But it was disturbing to see the level of applause that Donald Trump received from our men and women in uniform, especially considering how he looks down upon them. But he doesn't care. He thinks he can get away with anything, including lying about a phone call, which then he shared the receipts of his own lie. He showed that he lied, but he was asked about it here. Just take a look.
But the governor did not speak to you a day ago, as you said, in the Oval Office earlier. What's your response to that?
Well, I gave him, it wasn't a day ago, it was a little longer than that, and I presented the phone conversation to Fox News, John Roberts and Molly Line at Fox News, because they were the ones that said it. And we actually spent 16-point-something minutes on the phone, and I told him he's got to get his act together because you're going to have some bad times in Los Angeles if he doesn't. We had a pleasant conversation. The proof was from the phone company. It was from the phone company. So I spoke to him at a certain time. I'm sure you all saw it. You saw it. You saw. But why would you ask me that question if you saw it? You know, I mean, he asked me a question, and then he says, "Yeah, I saw that you spoke to him." Yeah, I spoke to him for over 16 minutes. I spoke to him for over 16 minutes, and I told him to get his act together, but he hasn't been able to do that. I mean, the man really, we could have a great, you know, we have an Olympics coming up. We have to put the right foot forward. We have to do a job. We have a lot of people all over the world watching Los Angeles. We've got the Olympics, and we have this guy allowing this to happen. Let me tell you, when
I know that Trump is a pathological liar and he doesn't even know when he's lying. He just kind of just buys into his own stuff. But you also have to think at this point, maybe he's just completely senile. Maybe he's just lost his mind. Maybe he doesn't actually know what day of the week it is. Maybe they've all blended together for him. There are clips going around that looks like Donald Trump might have, you know, something stabilizing his legs as he walks, or a catheter. I don't know. I don't want to speculate into something that we don't know, but we don't know because the health report we get from Donald Trump is like North Korea style propaganda that he's what, like 6'5", and he's a lean 215, and he like what, runs a 4.40. Like, it's a joke. So we don't know if he's losing his mind. We don't know if he's in cognitive decline, at least medically speaking, but it appears that that is the case. Of course, Republicans are going to say nothing about that. Why would they? They're in a cult. They'll fall in line with every lie he tells, especially on his budget. And that was pointed out in Congress by Congressman Joe Neguse, who called out a Republican in a brutal takedown I want to take a look at right here.
Mr. Aderholt, I want to ask you a couple questions. So I have a press release here. This is from June 10th, so just a few days ago. This is from your majority leader, Stephen Scalise, in describing the bill, H.R. 4, the Rescissions Act of 2025. And he says in this press release that this bill would, quote, codifies President Trump's cuts to wasteful foreign aid initiatives, as well as woke public broadcasting. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And it also says, quote, this legislation cuts $9.4 billion in waste, end quote. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Okay. And you'd characterize the programs that are being cut and rescinded as waste. You've said that at great
Yes.
length. Why did you vote in favor of those programs when you voted for the CR 3 months ago?
When these programs, I knew that we had a new administration that will be coming in and be looking at it. The president has said from day one that he wants to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse that are in these programs.
But why didn't you get rid of them?
Well, because a lot of these, we send the money to the administration, and they have decided on their own to unilaterally do these programs. This is not something that Congress gave these particular.
You appropriated.
We appropriated the money, but this was decided at a agency level.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm missing something here, Mr. Aderholt. Let me just take a step back. So the $9.4 billion that the administration wants to rescind funding for, right? This is funding that Congress appropriated. You voted for those appropriations 3 months ago.
With the understanding what the president would be cutting out.
So I get it. So I guess the argument is, I'll vote for, let's say, funding public television with the understanding that President Trump will ask us 3 months from now to cut the very funding that I'm voting for. I don't really understand why. Like, why not just not appropriate those dollars 3 months ago? What was the point? Why not just say, like, 3 months ago, you all could have decided, Republicans could have said, you know what, this $9.1 billion, it's waste, it's fraud. We're not going to give it to the administration. We're just going to not appropriate those dollars. You're on the Appropriations Committee, correct? You're the chairman of the subcommittee, the relevant subcommittee here. So, I mean, you have the power to do that. That's what I'm trying to figure out is why didn't you all do that?
Well, again, a lot of these particulars, we knew, I think many of us on the Republican side knew that we had a new administration in town that would be using this money wisely and not doing what we had seen in the Trump and the Biden administration.
I hear you. I mean, I think it's what you said previously. Again, I'm going to just try to figure this out. What I'm saying is that as the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee, you have the power to say, I'm not going to vote to appropriate money for public television because I disagree with it, or I think it's waste, I think it's fraud, or I'm not going to vote for foreign aid initiatives because I think it's fraud, I think it's waste. You could decide to do that, and you don't have to go through this entire process of sort of kabuki theater where you appropriate billions of dollars and send them to the administration only so that the administration can come back and tell you now that those funds should be rescinded. It doesn't, and by the way, several of your colleagues voted against the CR for that reason, right? So they basically made the argument, my Republican colleagues said.
There are probably various reasons they voted against it.
Sure, but I think some of them have said, you know Mr. Massey as well as I do, right? He said, look, this budget contains fraud and waste and abuse, and I'm not funding it. I don't want to support that kind of waste, and so I'm voting against it. You made a different decision, as did many of your colleagues, and I guess what I'm saying is I just think that you could understand why the American people would be confused to hear your colleagues, right, and you yourself say, this is waste, this is fraud, this is the worst wasteful spending that we've ever seen, but just forget the fact that I voted for it a few months ago.
Well, many of these programs are not being unilaterally just decimated. They're trying to get the waste, fraud, and abuse. That is what the president is going after. And that's what I totally support, and that's why I support what the president's doing here. So waste, fraud, and abuse is something that the American people voted for this president because he gave examples when he ran as president that we've seen in this government. And we've listed many of the things here today that happened in the last administration.
You made a compelling case, but I'm just confused why you voted for it.
Democrats in Congress, and especially the mainstream media, need to work to shut down this lie that the GOP is ever acting in good faith. Republicans have no grounding principle. There is no conservative viewpoint driving their decisions. They're in a cult. It's the cult of Trump. That's it. They'll do what Trump says. They'll fall in line when Trump tells them to, and that's pretty much the game plan. So this idea that we treat their actions like they care, no. Why? Why would we give them any credibility? They haven't earned it. They don't deserve it. They don't act like it. So let's just call them out. We're certainly going to be on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.